name's Phil Gallagher. I run ThrabenU University, a site for legacy death and taxes. And today, got the day off from work, which is great. And we got bribed. I know, it's the fish people. So for anyone unfamiliar with my hatred of the fish people, it's sort of a meme. I think that Legacy Merfolk is a terrible deck, and no one, under any circumstances, should ever play it. I believe that it doesn't leverage Ether Vial particularly well. You're essentially an aggro deck with minimal amounts of disruption that, like, you're just cheating in dudes that turn sideways. And I feel like you get less interaction than Death and Taxes. You get fewer options than something like Goblins. And I really do feel like you're even worse than a deck like Slivers. So I've just never really respected Merfolk as an archetype, and I have repeatedly went on rants about how Merfolk is the worst deck in Legacy. So obviously it finally came around to bite me, and here we are with a donation deck list for Merfolk. Which, you know, at the end of the day is probably going to be pretty funny in one way or another. So thank you very much to Timothy G for supporting this stream today and going and making me see whether or not the fish people really have legs. Or fishtails. So, Sort of Quip, thank you very much for the bits, and yeah, I really hope that today is interesting and fun. Let's start with kind of a deck tech, though, because there's some interesting things about this deck list that are a little bit untraditional. So first off, this is Chalice Merfolk rather than Daze Merfolk. Which I think I like better, but like there's some issues that we'll get into in a second. This is playing Benthic Biomancer, which is essentially just like a 1/1 for 1 mana that happens to have the creature type Merfolk for your various lords. And that's kind of a starting point for why I don't really like this thing. Like, yeah, sure, the adapt can do something, but like if you're adapting on turn 2 to turn this into a 2/2, doesn't seem like things are going well for you given how many 2-drops you have. So it ends up being a late game mana sink. And Coralhelm Commander kind of goes and works that same way. So like you have something to funnel your mana into in the late game, which I guess is okay. You have 3 pieces of main deck permanent interaction. You have 2 Dismembers and 2 Echoing Truths. Plus the honorable mention to Merfolk Trickster, which has Flash, and when it enters the battlefield, you tap a creature an opponent controls, and it loses all abilities until the end of turn. So that can help you like make a creature smaller, or get a like mid-combat blowout, or stop some annoying permanent like Mother of Runes or something like that temporarily. The sideboard here really highlights a big problem that I have with Merfolk deck building frequently, and that's the negative synergy that is inherent in the deck building. So if you take a look, like you're playing Chalice of the Void alongside 1-drops. It's forgivable because you have Cavernous Souls and Ether Vial, though. You know, Death and Taxes does the same thing. But then you look at the sideboard, where your Null Rods go and shut off your Ether Vials. Your Chalice of the Voids shut off your Relic of Progenitus. And I also think that Relic of Progenitus is an unplayable card in Legacy for the most part as well. And hopefully we don't get paired against Reanimator to show you exactly how bad this card actually looks. Relic, I think, is terrible in this deck because it requires you to hold up mana when you're really wanting to tap out or very close to it on most of your turns. And it's also just not free. I think free disruption is very important, so Surgical, Fairy, Tormod's Crypt would probably all be better than Relic of Progenitus. You're playing back to basics in your deck with, is it 9, 4, 8, 9 non-basic lands? So almost 50% of your lands are hit by the back-to-basics that you're trying to play as a trump card in certain matchups, and I'm not really huge on that. Fornia, thank you very much for your support this month. I hope you're going to enjoy the nonsense that is Legacy Merfolk today. Admittedly, I do really like Force of Negation in this deck. Like, being able to play Force of Will and Force of Negation with so many blue cards to be able to consistently pitch to it, I think that aspect of the sideboard is very strong. But yeah, so I feel like we're largely an aggressive deck that doesn't utilize Ether Vial as well as other decks, and there's a ton of various aspects of negative synergy in the sideboard. And from here on out, now that I've voiced my complaints about Legacy Merfolk, I'm gonna, like, go into this league with an open mind, and I'm just gonna see how this plays out. And, you know, we'll see if by the end of this I go, yeah, okay, maybe Merfolk is better now than it used to be. But I'm pretty skeptical. Yeah, I'm glad you're liking the daily D&T. Those have been really fun for me to do. With my changing work schedule and, like, living with my girlfriend now, I'm not streaming quite as consistently. I'm still getting the 2 a week, but, like, 2 a week plus the daily D&T videos has been a good balance for me. It gives me a little bit of flexibility. Narset delenda est. I don't think we have too much to worry about from Narset here. What, Narset can make us not draw a card off a Silvergill Adept? Otherwise, if someone's playing Narset against me, that means they probably have islands, right? And so, like, I'm gonna go and get Island Walk and just, like, walk on over and punch Narset in the face. That all seems good to me. Also, just while I'm, like, warming up here and waiting to go, I just want to point out that Arkan has been streaming for almost 8 hours straight, which is super, super impressive. After 3 or 4 hours of streaming, I'm usually pretty exhausted. Okay. Like, we have an honest-to-goodness good hand here, right? We get turn 1 Vial with Force of Will backup for if my opponent tries to go and do something unfair, and then we get to curve Benthic Biomancer into Master of the Pearl Trident off of Ether Vial. Yeah, we're just gonna let that go, and we'll play another Ether Vial next turn. Not that. This first. Now, if my opponent tries to counter this Vial, it does become more interesting about whether or not I actually Force of Will it. Because it's very possible that this game is going to become a, hey, I am just going to cast all my cards game. And the Force of Will is then left for something big and scary. I'm fine with casting Benthic Biomancer into Daze. If my opponent dazes that, I feel like that's such a win. Ooh. So this is going to be a show and tell. So basically, as long as that doesn't resolve, we probably win this game. So I'm going to, like, force and pitch a Lord and save my other force. Gracefully Balding, you bet it is. Alright, so we kind of blew our load there. We have one Benthic Biomancer around. Oh my god! Wow! Okay. Opponent had it all there. Loot? So, like, opponent had to have the soul land to also be able to fluster. They had a blue card to pitch to force, plus, so that was the right land, plus fluster, plus show and tell, plus force, plus blue card, plus Emrakul. That was a very specific 6-card sequence needed to beat us. I fully accept that loss. Like, they got me. Force of Negation and Venser both seem amazing. Dismember seems like garbage. I guess we can consider something like Echoing Truth, although it's really of medium power level. Like, the Echoing Truth can bounce in Omniscience, but the damage is probably already done at that point. I don't know if I'm actually going to board that in. And, like, Back to Basics technically could do things, but, you know, probably not worth it considering the collateral damage that is done to us. I'm going to lean towards no on the Echoing Truths, I think. And then just play my Merfolk that cost less. Tapping out for a True Name Nemesis isn't really particularly appealing to me. And Slyanka, I've already done my complaining about Merfolk, so I'm not going to complain while playing the League. I'm just going to play it out. Like, we had a great hand that time, and our opponent just had an amazing, like, absolute tier 1 monster killer hand. So, like, we accept that loss. I would like to play first. It seems acceptable. I'm not excited about this hand in that I want to curve Benthic Biomancer into Master of the Pearl Trident for damage reasons, but then that's also going to require me to draw a blue card next turn in order to go and do that safely. Otherwise, I'm just holding up mana for Force of Negation later. And the blue-blue of Force of Negation hardcast may have tension with the other lands that I want to play. Hope everyone's having a great Labor Day. I'm sure many of you don't have to work today, but some of you still do. So, like, I'm off today, but the girlfriend has to work from home. So she's out bumming on the couch while listening to a bunch of training videos. Opponent kindly giving us Island Walk. Pyroblast, my master. Yep, that is occurring. Lonely 1/1 goes to town. Well, poop. That's what I have to say to that. Hey, it's on this little notepad next to me to do. Yeah, this stupid tree is going to murder me. So assuming my opponent like resolves a show and tell, I can like put in Merfolk Trickster. No, I wouldn't want to put in Merfolk Trickster. I would want to use that the following turn to turn an Emrakul into a derpy idiot. So maybe let's loot this turn. So I think I'm gonna... No, blue-blue is the issue. Okay. So let's loot. we will definitely get rid of Nithravile. Ugh, excuse me. Yeah, wet D&T confirmed. So we can increase our permanent count. Like, we have this Force of Negation. Yes, Legacy staple Benthic Biomancer. Clearly doing work here. Oh man, opponent, like, just does not have the combo right now. That's good. That means we actually might be able to, like, do some things. Alright, another Merfolk. That's sweet. I think I'm just, like, firing up the old Mutavault and attacking. Don't Kozilek's return me. Because I can't Force of Negation it. Yeah, I guess we're putting another Mutavault into play. Straight up, if my opponent like casts a Ponder or something off of not Boseiju, I'm probably just going to Force of Negation it. Yeah. So Adapt is only if it has no +1/+1 counters. So I can't counter this with Force of Negation. I think it's unwise to put in Merfolk Trickster. So we're just going to put in an island here and hope for the best. It is Omniscience. We can Force of Negation a non-creature spell that's cast here. Yeah, so I think I do. The question is, do I want to play Force of Negation around Spell Pierce? This is super awkward, right? I think I have to let them do this. And then Trickster whatever creature they put in. Okay. That occurs. I mean, we basically need to hope that they don't have Emrakul. So the reason I let this attack was so that they couldn't, like, fetch and sneak in, like, another copy of Grizzlebrand, in case that wasn't clear. Making this thing lose all abilities is totally fine. Like, we're intending on lethaling our opponent next turn. So this 7 damage is basically irrelevant. It's if our opponent has Emrakul that, like, we have real issues. They still have 7 cards. Am I actually going to win here? Am I actually going to win? Or does my opponent have a removal spell that they can just go and play? So the question becomes, like, how many Mutavaults do I fire up? If I fire up 1 Mutavault, I can play Force of Negation, but not Force of Negation through a Spell Pierce. If I fire up no Mutavaults, I can play Force of Negation, but if they Spell Pierce it, I lose. think I'm going to fire up 1 and hold up Force of Negation. We are going to lose to them having a second Grizzlebrand here. That's like the one thing that I can't interact with via the stack. So if they just sneak in second Grizzlebrand and block, I'm super screwed. Yep. So we still have lethal next turn. The Grizzlebrand is gone. Well, that was their top deck. There's nothing I can do about that one. Since we took the 7 damage from the Grizzlebrand before, we were getting lethal. But even if we didn't, we'd sacrifice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 permanents, be left with this, and then still not have lethal. So good game. I feel like we played that one pretty well. But just got. So I did end up playing around the Grizzlebrand well the first time, because my opponent did have the second. So if I would have tapped down the first one, they probably just would have attacked with the second one, gotten me for 7 with lifelink, and then I wouldn't have had any chance of closing out that game. That tree, that Boseiju, it got us good. The Warrior of the Light with very much lead speak. Keep? I think this is a keep. In Death and Taxes, in post-sideboard games, when you curve Aether Vial into Chalice of the Void, it's very good. I'm going to assume the same is true here, and that we'll use the Aether Vial to dump in the creatures that we'll be drawing over the next couple of turns. We don't have anything to pair with Force of Will, but assuming that Chalice of the Void is a good card in the matchup, we should have plenty of time to draw into the stuff that matters. But, like, boy, if we're playing against something like Death and Taxes or Red Prison here, like, this hand is going to be a stinker. Well, we've got a redundant hand for Reanimator, but if they just go for it this turn, they get me. So they get to Thought Seize me, they'll probably take my Force of Will, and then I'll get to resolve a Chalice on 1. Which is pretty great in the matchup. We will name Merfolk. We will put our Chalice on 1. So now the next question becomes, do I want to put the Chalice on 0 to shut off their Lotus Petals, or do I want to save the Chalice, try to draw another land, and put the Chalice on 2 so that they have literally 0 outs to win the game? I think the Chalice on 2 is more valuable. In order to put something into the graveyard, my opponent is going to need to take 2 turns to draw and discard. So they draw, I play a land. They draw, they discard if they don't play anything else, and so I'll get 2 draws to draw a land to get a Chalice on 2, which will put them on 0 outs. I think that's fine. Okay, so they're not going for hard discard. Which may mean that they don't have a creature currently. It is possible now that this is just Ant rather than Reanimator. Either way, Chalice on 2 is pretty insane. Does it seem strange if Ant? We have 4 fetches in Grixis colors plus Thoughtseize. They Thoughtseize Force of Will. They've sat there and couldn't do much because of Chalice on 1. We got super punished for not taking up the Vial up with that sequence of plays. It is what it is. Super glad we didn't just ram out the Chalice on 0. We're in pretty bad shape this game. Not disastrous shape by any stretch of the imagination, but the Chalice on 2 doesn't really cut off that many of my opponent's cards. That's borderline a dead draw. Like, my opponent has islands, so their creatures are unblockable. Paying 4 life to dismember something like a Baleful Strix feels pretty terrible. Sure. There's that Narset someone was talking about at the beginning of the stream. And in case this isn't obvious to anyone watching, we put this Chalice on 2, but we can still cast our own 2 drops because of the Cavern on Merfolk. Brainstorm. I don't think Narset is any more obnoxious than other cards that we've seen in recent sets. There's just been a huge power level spike recently with like Karn and Mystic Forge and Narset. Like we've gotten a lot of shenanigans. Renin 6, Dreadhorde Arcanist. So we get a redraw, but it's a redraw on our opponent's turn. Each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. So we'll use that on my opponent's turn. Hope to draw a 2-drop. And go from there. We're really just hoping to put something like a True Name Nemesis into play and ride that to victory. A Force at Will. That's not going to do much. That'll probably get brainstormed away. Not 100%, but probably. Opponent will be at 7 cards after the brainstorm, to me being borderline hellbent. Not good for the fish people. Please don't drop a Jace. Alright, well, we're going to draw a card in response to that. See if we draw Force of Negation. Oh, wait, it's in our sideboard, so that's not going to happen. Yes. I don't really know how I'm feeling about this Merfolk Trickster here. Does not seem great. Not in this matchup. But more generally, I don't know if it's worth the slots. Are we really going to just, like, kill Merfolk Trickster? We are. We'll try again next turn. Hey, welcome. We lost our first match against Sneak and Show very narrowly. Like, opponent just had absolutely it all. And now we're in game 1 versus Grixis Control, and it is not looking good. So the best thing that can happen is my opponent doesn't have a removal spell for Merfolk Trickster, and we draw a Lord off the top. So that we can kill Jace. Otherwise, life feels kind of bad. Sort of one of our big problems here is that my opponent has, like, say, a Lightning Bolt, and we don't draw a Lord. Well, we have a lot of problems. There's another. So now the Lily gets to plus and make it so that this doesn't actually get attack power. We're going to attack the Jace in the hopes that the Jace goes down to 1. My opponent doesn't plus it. I draw a Lord, and I can then kill the Jace on the next turn. But we're kind of in magical Christmas land if we think all of that is going to work. But at the same time, I still can't concede, because a true name nemesis that resolves has no apparent answer, right? So, like, we're still in this. Alright, yeah, enjoy my dismember that has been rotting in my hand. Okay, this is a real magic card with text. It is a threat that doesn't just immediately get invalidated by Lily. Maybe my opponent doesn't have a removal spell in their top 7 cards. What do you think? I try, Steamflogger Boss. I try. Well, we're obligated to make the attack, otherwise the Lily ultimates, and we can't beat that. Yep. We're gonna hold this land to make it look like we have something, but if my opponent just Lily ultimates here, I think mathematically I can't win. Like, it would have to involve, like, True Name plus Lord or something like that. Otherwise, Lord giving all of my things Island Walk gives me some outs. Hold up. They Jace plussed on me and they gave me Echoing Truth? Really? This is going to buy me a lot of time and maybe actually let me get some attacks in. Oh, wait, no, hold on. I take it back. They bottomed. They bottomed. Good point. Good point. Sorry, I was so surprised just, like, that this card was on top that I didn't even think anymore. This is the only 2-drop in my deck that can be countered by a Chalice. I'm going to take 4 this turn, go to 16. Then have 8 threatened the next turn. So we're on opponent error here as only reasonable outs. Like opponent clicking through an attack step. That's the sort of thing that I need here. All right, now we're dead. So what do we have versus Grixis control? So okay, so maybe let's start with what don't I want. I don't really think I want this Dismember. I don't really think I want this Echoing Truth. All the other idiots seem fine. Fencers to bounce Planeswalkers seem fine. I don't know that I actually want to play Relic alongside Chalice of the Void, though. Like that seems pretty sketchy. So I think I can either board maybe like this, or alternatively maybe something like that. I think in terms of role assessment, I'm the beatdown here, right? I am trying to aggro out my opponent before they can go and take over the game via card advantage. So I think I want to do this. Or no, I have 3 Force Negations. I think I want to do this. I think Force Negation is better than Force of Will here, because there aren't too many creatures that I actually need to counter, and the ability to hardcast this in the mid-game seems fine. The whole Chalice of the Void Relic Progenitus thing is still pretty sketchy, but, stopping some Snapcasters and K commands probably is relevant. Oh, boy. This is a hard hand. We have borderline no aggression to speak of, but we have Chalice and the ability to force it through. 2 of our lands are utility lands. I'm not happy about this hand. But is it bad enough to mulligan? I think I keep it. So conceptually, the games that I see Merfolk winning tend to go in one of 2 directions. It's the early aggressive start where you just overpower the removal, or the mid-range games where you just resolve True Name and your opponent can't answer them. I have not. I don't know that I have even seen that build. Well, I choose you. No, I'm totally going to jam the true name. I have forced to protect it from an edict effect. I have a lot of force to protect it from an edict effect. I don't think I'm going to crash in with my Mutavault. Not crashing with the Mutavault means that I can hold up Force of Negation. And then I potentially have like 3 layers of protection protecting this true name. Let's just try to ride this bad boy to victory. A Plague Engineer, you say? That one's going to get Force of Willed. And then we can Force of Negation back on an opposing Force of Will if that's something that occurs. I think I'm going to go ahead and cash in this land here. Now we get these out of range of Plague Engineer, which is pretty big. And then we'll crash in with the Mutavault. Yeah, TuxDev is the one who donated to make this stream happen. I talked about some of the things that I disliked about the deck list at the beginning. So later, be sure to check out my first couple of thoughts with the deck when I did the deck tech. I think there's a lot of negative synergy, especially in the sideboard, that I'm not a huge fan of. Now I don't have the reps though to know, like, for sure that some of those things are wrong. But there's a lot of things that look a touch funky to me. So if I just counter that, you're dead, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if that Jace resolves, it's just bouncing my Lord of Atlantis. My opponent figured out what's what. We'll run back the sideboarding in the same way. I don't think we necessarily have to change play versus draw. A lot of our creatures feel kind of bad. in this matchup. Like Benthic Biomancer and Merfolk Trickster aren't really going and doing a ton in a matchup like this. And it's possible that like maybe I should trim some of those cards for like more Force of Wills or more Relic of Progenitus or something like that. But I'm kind of going with a light touch on sideboarding here. You keep one land Ether Vial hands with decks like this with no regrets. We get 2 draws to draw into land to do sort of the ideal curve of Aether Vial into Chalice of the Void. And I will consider Force of Negation on a Thoughtseize here. Because like taking the Vial is very detrimental to my hand. I would rather give up 2 cards than my Aether Vial. Especially since we can recoup some of our card advantage here. A Hymn to Turok would suck quite a bit here. Hymn to Turok, take my Chalice of the Void and my Silvergill Adept. Get me good. Yeah, that's fine. Ponder's fine. Come on, deck, give me that sweet land action. What happened with that Ponder? No shuffle with the Ponder. Alright, presumably there goes the Chalice. Although if my opponent has K command, they might just, like, take this instead. Yep, okay. So opponent probably has K command. Yikes. So opponent now might just like make their land drop, K command my Aether Vial and make me discard a card. And like attempt to strand me. What do we do? We don't draw lands. How do we actually win this one? If my opponent just bullies me. Alright, so there is at least still some degree of concern for Chalice. Maybe they can only answer one of them. Land? Land. So real talk. If they have K command, if I just put in double Lord right now, both of my Lords are 3/3s. And they can't kill a creature with the K command. So the question becomes, if they K command in this turn cycle, would I rather them K command Chalice and Lord? Okay, no, I'm going to Chalice, and we might play this weird staring game for a little while, where I don't actually go and put in a creature, so that I can hard cast a creature, pass the turn, and then, like, essentially time walk them. And we just, like, play this staring contest where I sit there with this vial. Yeah, I think we're playing a staring contest. Are we getting value? Are we getting value? So they're going to destroy my chalice, make me discard a card. So in response, I put in this Lord of Atlantis, and they just get a 1-for-1 with their K command, which is really where we would like to be. Now, if they have like a Toxic Deluge or something like that to follow this up, it's absolutely devastating. Otherwise, we have 6 power of unblockable fishies that get to crash in. But opponent has poor cards, so I'm not super optimistic that anything is going to go well here. I'm going to take that damage because we need to consider things like Liliana Last Hope when we're making blocks. And if they deluge and pay a little bit, like, so what? I accept that. I turned off my auto yields so that in my upkeep, I can draw a card with this and then make a decision about what I want to do with my vial afterwards. Okay, so we'll leave it at 2. Yeah, if they had kept their Snapcaster back, I would have had to, like, use my Merfolk Trickster. Alright, you thought sees me. Well, sure. Yes. Merfolk Trickster. Nice. Shock. Targeting yourself. Yeah, like, as soon as my opponent drops a source of, like, recurring card advantage, I'm in big trouble, right? Alright, they just got a brainstorm out of that. That's acceptable. We're going to leave this at 2. Nice. Nope. I need to do that during my opponent's turn. Or kill Narset, then do it. So Toxic Deluge is the big reason to not put in Silvergill Adept right now. But drawing something like Chalice of the Void is pretty big incentive to actually draw now, although I do only have 2 Chalices. So drawing Mutavault, Chalice, true name or the big reasons to do it. The reason not to do it is only the card Toxic Deluge. I'm going to put it in. Perfectly happy with that. Tuxdev agreed, but I think a cavern in play is definitely worth it. But like the next island I draw, for example, I will be holding as K command fodder or Benthic Biomancer fodder. Sure. Don't know that I love my opponent's sequencing of cantrips here. So that was a Ponder, No Shuffle, followed by Brainstorm. So they're stuck with the cards that they have now. We're going to crack this immediately because there's such high upside of drawing a Lord here. Eh. Am I trading a 2/2 for their Snapcaster Mage? It's awkward. So, like, if I attack with both, they take my Merfolk Trickster, and potentially losing Silvergill Adept to something that couldn't kill Merfolk Trickster like Lily Last Hope. I think I'm willing to trade the Silvergill, but not the Trickster. Tuxdev, I'm with you here. And then I think I don't play my Ether Vial. Alternatively, if I made that attack super quickly and I just turned both sideways, they maybe don't block the Trickster because it looks like I drew a Lord. But I missed my opportunity to do that by thinking for so long. Yeah, I'm going to hold both of those. Now if my opponent draws a Planeswalker before I stick a creature, it is bad news bears. Yep, there we go. Um, I will put that in now. And maybe I should have just hard cast that, actually. I didn't think that through enough. Because, like, if I hard cast it using my Cavern, I can still make a land drop to play a True Name Nemesis or something like that. But now I lose on the possibility of putting it back in if my opponent Jace bounces it. Yup, you're right, Witch King. I'm so used to never paying 5 mana for that I forget when you're in the late game. Like, that is something that occurs. That's this vial. We'll leave that one at 2 for this turn. Yeah, so I'm going to leave vials on 1 and 2 this turn, and then tick up to 2 and 3 next turn. We're going to just win by timeout if our opponent continues to play at this pace. Sure. Yeah, we're taking up the one that's not there. Nice. I think I'm going to go ahead and make my mute. Well, it's interesting. Because of the things that I can potentially draw off the Benthic Biomancer loot. Can I do this loot at instant speed? I can do this loot at instant speed. So maybe I will just attack with the Mutavault at Jace. Kind of feels like my opponent has Fatal Push. Yep, okay, so there's the Fatal Push. And now I'm just going to go for the end of turn Benthic Biomancer and adapt. Alright. Our Benthic Biomancer can live through that, so that's cool. Yes. Benthic Biomancer. Adapt. Loot away this island. Discard that. Go to my turn. Take the vial up. Cool. Alright. So, as long as my opponent doesn't have, like, a Fatal Push or equivalent, I get to kill Jace. Alright. We've got some hope here. We've got some degrees of Trixies. If we can finish off the Liliana in my turn, I'll be super, super happy. Vier Malvier. Thank you, Malvier, question mark. Thank you very much for following. I hope you're enjoying the content here. Merfolk Trickster, you don't quite get to do what I want here, right? So like it enters the battlefield, that ability goes onto the stack, making Snapcaster lose that ability at that point doesn't do anything. It's Lord at 4 mana, right? Nice. That was a fantastic draw. Okay, so I need to sacrifice a creature. I guess it's this one. Not that one. Not that one is the answer. There's like some weird corner case scenarios where you can make an argument for which one of these to like actually get rid of due to like Jace bounce reasons. So we hardcast that instead of vialing it in, again, because of like Jace bounce going and returning a creature to our hand. Sure, that's a little bit of an annoyance. So real question, am I trading for that body? No, I don't really think so. But at the same time, there is some desire to just protect my life total for the next 50 seconds. If I was playing this game out with no time constraints, I think it's correct to not block. But if I'm playing this out in respect of the clock, I take the trade. Yikes. Force of Negation does not counter that. We're just going to die to double Plague Engineer. Yeah, I can't even play that. It just immediately dies to state-based effects. That's really disappointing. Note, I do think it was correct to board out the Dismembers, because we can beat one Plague Engineer relatively easily. The second one here is just an absolute beating. I think Dismember is like an absolute trash card in the matchup, though. Like I can so like if they have one, right? If they have one, any Lord goes and negates that. It so like I feel like one you can play around and beat, right? Like you have one like 4, 8, 12, 15 creatures that live through it, and then everything else lives through it if you control one of these 12. Like I feel like it's very beatable. And anytime you have a Dismember, it is going to be a dead card in your hand. Right? Like using a Dismember on a Snapcaster Mage or a Baleful Strix is pretty bad. Like it's not like Merfolk Trickster and Benthic Biomancer are all that great, so like maybe it's better than one of them. Sure, like a one of Big Fish, right? But like, do you want to play 2 terrible cards to specifically target 2 to 3 cards of your opponent's deck? I don't know that the answer is yes. Keep? Do 1 billion damage to myself? Are you really expecting 3 to 4 Engineer? That seems insane to me. Alright. MTG top 8. We're gonna check that. First Grixis control list I see has 2 in the board. The second list I see has 3 in the 75. The third one I see has 1 in the 75. The fourth one I see has 2 in the 75. Yeah, I don't know that I would be expecting to see 3 or 4 Plague Engineers. So real question, how many points of damage am I going to do to myself this game? $13. So do I want to take time off to try and resolve this Ether Vial? I think it's worth taking time off to try and resolve the Ether Vial. It'll help me play my lords around days. And also helps me respect my life total. I'm not sure if I would force a will to fight for this Ether Vial. I'm going to think about it, though. I think I let it go and then just play Benthic Biomancer and try to resolve lords. I think I'm going to need to force something like a Wrenn and 6 on current board. Well, I'm fine with playing Benthic Biomancer in 2 days. Yeah, it seems like this is 4-color with Stifle. Nope. So, is this 4-color control with Stifle? Is that what I'm seeing here? Because that was the Toxic Deluge, right? And this is game 1? That's really weird. That's really weird. This is a new match, right? Like, I'm not crazy? This is the beginning of the log. So opponent gets a lot of question marks from me. But given what I saw of those lands, back to basics seems good. I don't know what my opponent's doing. So are they like a Dreadhorde Arcanist deck? That like, no, flashing back Stifle with that doesn't make a lot of sense. Is the Stifle just like a one of get 'em, buys 'em sort of thing? Peak blue soup bullshit. All right, yeah, I can see what you're saying there. So like I can see boarding out like some of this sort of stuff. And like maybe in this Unworld play extra Force of Negations. The other thing is like maybe my opponent is a Ren and 6 deck, so Benthic Biomancer on its own isn't that great. All right, I've got clock to consider. So like, what if we play more Force of Negations over Force of Wills? What if we cut the Tricksters and the Echoing Truth? That leaves me at 59 cards. I'll just play another Force of Will. Leave in the Dismembers in case my opponent has like Arcanist plus Red Blasts. Easy keep. What? I'm Force of Negationing this Ren and 6 that's coming down. Hopefully they were like real all in on that. It's like blue lands, but super bad. Okay, good. Does Chalice do something against them? Like, do they still have 1-drops? Okay. Well, so let's look at this pile. So they have Ponder, Brainstorm, Crop Rotation, Spell Pierce, Stifle as 1-drops. And then they're like a weird lands, Ren and 6 value deck. Okay. So Chalice on 1 is still good and worth doing. Let's do that this turn. We are going to want to have Echoing Truths in if we go to a game 3 because like they do have the capacity to just go and produce Merit Lodge. So one of these is potentially Force of Will fodder. Coral Helm Commander can be a better on its own threat, so I'm going to go ahead and play that. It also lets me use all my mana this turn, which is relevant. Yep, so their Thespian Stage copies an island, so it can't be wastelanded. Yes. 7 turns down the line, it could become relevant that this sucker flies, because it then blocks Merit Lodge. Ooh, okay, so with that as a draw, I think I'm comfortable playing this out. And then we can pump the Coral Helm and get some extra damage in. Well, the nice thing is that we'll probably see a Merit Lodge coming, at least for right now. Because I can't just, like, end of turn Crop Rot. Narset? No. Deluge? Question mark? It's a bunch of colors. Whatever this is, I don't like it, and I'm probably countering it. Where's your spell, Pierce, now? Opponent gives us the formal nice for that. Okay, so quick math check. What is better to do here? If I put 2 mana into this, it's going to turn into a 5/5, and I'm going to get 8 damage here. If I put 2 mana into this, I get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage. So I guess it's better to just pump this in case there's another Toxic Deluge. There is only one Toxic Deluge. So I guess that's not true. There are 2 Snapcasters, though. Okay, yeah, let's just pump into here then. Oh, we also exiled the Deluge. Yeah, so I guess it's a wash. I like not playing the Lord of Atlantis then, in case the 75 has changed slightly. We still have lethal even if my opponent presents a Merit Lodge, which is cool. So there's 2 different lethal threats, even if my opponent removes the Coral Helm Commander, now I have lethal. Okay, we are on the board with Merfolk. Tell him he has a nice deck, but that you would take out the blue cards. Yeah, I don't know. Anytime someone plays a deck like this, if their username isn't Negator77, I'm always really skeptical that they're gonna do well with any sort of like bug depths deck. I'll keep this hand. No, I do not think we're going to be positive with Merfolk at the end of this. But I had that preconceived notion from the start. Like, I'm going to play it to my best. I'm going to try to get there. But, you know, I have deep-seated hatred of the fish people, and they've got to prove themselves. So this long pause here is at least somewhat telling, right? If my opponent was an all-in combo deck, then it would have just been like force of will with 0 second thoughts, right? So my opponent might be playing something that is at least relatively fair. And yes, I have really not been impressed by Benthic Biomancer. Oh. I take back what I said about something fair. So my opponent knew that I just had a single piece of interaction that was duressable. So they went and they took a creature the first time around. I understand their reasoning why, but if they can't go off now, it seems like holding one of these would be smart. So I think they have a third piece of discard in their hand. I think they're super heavy on discard right now. We're hoping to draw into counter magic here before we just get killed. Does Alurin play Duress? I don't think Alurin plays Duress. I'm more inclined to think that this is something like a Storm deck or a Buglands deck. It would be really... It would be unlikely for it to be Storm, because having, like, double green land would be, like, potentially, like, double one of lands, so that would be odd. But, like, when I was playing them previously, my Alurin or Food Chain decks didn't have Duress in them. So, like, if you told me, like, look at these 6 cards, what deck could it be? My thought would still be Ant. It's just weird. Yeah. My thought is that this is Ant, and it's just like, hey, I didn't have a fetch land, here's my weird opener with these one-of lands. Holy cow, Arkin, thank you very much for the huge host. And kudos to you, by the way. When I started streaming, you had already been streaming for 8 hours. So you must have, like, streamed for close to 10 hours today or something like that. Well done to you, bud. For everyone who's joining in, hi, my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy, death, and taxes. Today I have been bribed, and we are playing the Sushi deck. We are playing with the fish people, the Merfolk. We're currently puzzling through what my opponent is playing. We've seen Thoughtseize, Duress, Preordain, and these lands that are on the table. Current thought is that we are playing against maybe a Storm deck or some other combo deck. If it's Storm, though, it's weird because these were the first 2 land drops, so double green, like, one of lands would be really weird to hit in your opener. So, if I just play Waterlogged Grove and pass, I can hold up putting in a 2/2, while also holding up the ability to draw into Force of Will or Force of Negation if my opponent starts to go off. It costs me 1 damage this turn, but I will end up either ahead or equal on damage in the long term. Yes, it does cost the damage of me. So like the highest damage play is play Mutavault as land, play Lord of Atlantis as the card for turn, and then just have no ability to interact with my opponent if they start going off. But if I end of turn Merfolk Trickster, then play Mutavault and Lord of Atlantis, that's probably okay. Because I can play like Mutavault, hold up mana to activate Mutavault. Like there's things that can occur. So the good news is that if this is Storm, we do get quite a few sideboard cards to help out with this. Yeah, if I am somehow not dead, I will 100% be cracking Grove. Sorry, be cracking Grove on my turn. Yeah, so let's crack this, see if we can, like, spike Chalice of the Void specifically. Or Force of Will. Force of Will is fine. It's still soft to a discard spell of some nature. But I think that's okay. And I don't think we can go, like, willy-nilly forcing this Brainstorm here or anything like that. Yeah, it's a holiday for me, Arkin, so that's why I'm getting this, like, midday stream here, which is pretty great. Yeah, so, like, next turn, if I don't draw a blue card, I'll get a real choice of, like, do I just crash in for as much damage as I can crash in for and try to go and stop some sort of, like, ad nauseum kill from occurring. Well, alright, you get my Force of Will. We're honestly lucky to have gotten as many turns as we did. Alright, I'm just going to F6. And I'll concede once my opponent has demonstrated to me that they've got it. Yeah, it was Ant with the unlikely opener of double green source off of no fetch lands. I haven't done the math yet, but this might just be a Past in Flames kill from here. Oh wait, Storm count might not be high enough, actually. So 7... No, it is. 7... Sorry, I had gotten in my mind that it was 6 with the Past in Flames. Yeah, so that's fine. They've got it there. Alright. So Relic is like medium minus, but we probably might end up playing it anyway. I really dislike Relic in this deck. No Rod seems good. Force of Negation seems good. And Relic we're going to play. It's awkward that we have to hold up the mana for it because we want to be tapping out, but I think that's where we're at. So I think I'm not going to Dismember. I don't think I'm going to keep the Echoing Truth for, like, random Goblin tokens. And then I think I trim... Well, Merfolk Trickster seems pretty terrible. And then it's a question of, like, do I want a 1-drop that I can actually play out, or do I just want to trim True Name because it's expensive? Probably True Name. True Name is, in fact, so bad that, like, we could consider cutting another and just, like, playing a 2-2 that is Merfolk. I think I am going to do that. I don't think we're going Venser deep here. I think this one has to go back since every creature in our hand is blue-blue. Okay, I just have no ability to cast anything here. This I will keep. Um, honestly, is it just the vial that goes back? It's either vial or land. And I don't think it matters very much. I think I just want to pitch the vial and like have the ability to cast, say, a Null Rod or a Chalice if I draw it. Sure, I can kind of see that. In Death and Taxes, though, like, you basically never, ever, ever cut Ether Vial. Like, I cut it in exactly one matchup most of the time, so that's not something I really consider a sideboarding option. I think if we bin the land, we shut off too many of our great top decks, right? Like, we shut off Chalice on one and Null Rod, and the ability to just hard cast a 2-drop on turn 2 and start pushing the damage early. Yeah, Nick Fit is where I do it. Yeah. So, like, if I had binned that, I'd have a vial up one more, but then I couldn't have hard cast this turn. And, like, there's arguments for like, the vial way being better. Because, like, this turn I would put in the Benthic Biomancer, and then I would put in the Lord of Atlantis the following turn. But I think if we're playing to the immediate game where things are the scariest, then going in, shutting off some of my best top decks is very poor. And what Tuxdev is saying in chat here is that if we keep the second land and we draw the third land, then these become live, hard-castable counterspells. Which means I have 2 layers of protection instead of 1, which is big. And if I had the Vial, I'd also be inclined to put the Benthic Biomancer into play, meaning that Lord of Atlantis might have had to become my fodder for Force of Negation. Yeah, I think Benthic Biomancer is terrible. I would much rather have Curse Catcher. But then again, like, this at least has the ability to become a 2/2 body and get out of range of Wrenn and 6 and Plague Engineer. So, like, there's that. Yeah, me, wizened Merfolk Master with 3 matches with his deck list under my belt, thinks Curse Catcher is better. But, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, sure, you can Thoughtseize me. You'll get to take a Force of Negation. Silvergill's already in the deck, if that's what you mean. It's a 2-drop. So I'm obligated to hold up Force of Negation so I don't die. This Ether Vial's dead. Let's loot it away. Discard a vial. Get in there. We're dead to discard plus go off. At the same time, though, pushing that one extra point of damage is very relevant for like ad nauseum reasons, right? And if I don't take the 1 point of damage now, like I may lose out on the opportunity to do that next turn as well if I need to like cast some spells or something. So I think it's better to do it now. So my opponent has a crap ton of mana. Yep, alright, so the 1 point for ad nausea is super relevant here. Let's see what my opponent cracks for. Could be blue, it could be red. They're going for red. Still safe, still safe, still safe. Probably dead. So 6, 7, 8, 11, 9. Storm would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 100% dead. Why is opponent pausing? Just Past in Flames. You know my hand. Do they not have Past in Flames in the deck or something? No, they crack for red. They have to have Past in Flames. Did I math wrong? I don't think I math wrong. So there's 7 Storm. This is 8 Storm. Crack LED. It can also just like get another tutor and just kill me that way without using a graveyard if they're scared of surgical that I clearly don't have. Alright. Dead. No, didn't they thought seize me or duress me that turn? And that's what took my Force of Negation, leaving the shields down? I thought they knew I had double Benthic Biomancer there. So, like, they have nothing to play around. No, because the line of drawing in my main phase also opens up me drawing a Chalice and putting it on 0, right? So I definitely like my line better. Yeah, we are playing for shame points here. Life is rough for the fish people. So, like, while we're in queue, to reiterate some of my issues with the deck list. So, you have main deck Chalices with 8 cards that get countered by it. You have back to basics with 9 cards that don't untap. You have relics with Chalice. You have null rods with Vial. You have a surprising number of cards that are impacted by your own life total between like this, these. I'm just not a fan of Merfolk as a whole. Like I'm aware of like the Cavern of Souls combo, but like I also think Relic of Progenitus is not a playable legacy card. I think that card is very bad. Like it's fine against the mid-range fights, but it's just like absolutely too slow against something like Black Red Reanimator, which I think is a huge deal. Opponent's like just staring at me with a creepy face. Yeah, Cage I can see. So my opponent has taken a mulligan here and is thinking about their hand. The people running Moto have said in the past that they are intending to make it so that you can hide your screen name. And that is a feature that is still incoming. We got confirmation of that on Twitter a week or so ago. But it hasn't hit the top of the priority list yet, it seems. Oh god, we touched Moto. Leon and Arbiter doesn't work anymore. Alright, like, I'm gonna complain about Moto for a minute. Like, as a whole, the program is better than people give it credit for, but I've been super frustrated recently because some of its major functionality has just not worked. So, for example, recently I have not been able to import any any deck lists successfully that have certain cards in them. So, Swords to Plowshares doesn't import properly anymore. Neither do cards from some of the supplemental sets like Palace Jailer and Recruiter of the Guard. 100% forcing back since my opponent forced. No, that's just the way it is now. It's been really frustrating. Yeah, the gameplay is fine. Like when you're actually in matches, everything's okay. But a lot of the side stuff lately has been absolutely terrible. Seriously, Brainstorm? Like Legacy Pillar Brainstorm? All right. We're getting a snip here. All right. So opponent has a Batter Skull. Cool. Oh, I was snipping the chat. Just because, like, apparently it's everyone having problems with, like, Moto importing cards right now. Like, I knew it was going to be more than just me, but I didn't realize how widespread it was. Like, if format staples aren't importing properly, that's ridiculous. We're going to leave this Violet too. Our true name is going to be on defensive for a little while. And we're eventually going to just, like, get bigger than this Batter Skull and overwhelm. If our opponent isn't playing Supreme Verdict, I'm going to feel pretty okay. If my opponent is playing Supreme Verdict, like, I am going to be a sad panda. Alright. Combo. I don't even know what the card Brainstorm does, honestly. I think it does nothing, right? That's how Brainstorm works? They just, like, cast it and it just, like, wastes mana and time? No. Sometimes drawing people relevant cards. Who would want to do that? What do you mean I missed 3 damage off of Mutavault here? Like, my opponent had white mana up. Do I really want to expose that to Swords to Plowshares that turn? Yeah, but then I expose it to, like, the Swords to Plowshares. But if my opponent Swords to Plowshares, then they don't put in the Batterskull. Oh, yep. Okay, sure. That's fair. Alright, Jete. I think my Lord is better than Silvergill Adept. Three, 6, 9. Oh no, it's other Merfolk. I'm gonna hold that. Sure, hypothetically, but I wouldn't have had the mana to loot, right? So in terms of mana efficiency, turning it into a bigger body in case we have to, like, race the Batterskull and Jitte awkwardly is probably fine. Was my opponent... Oh. So if they had another land, they maybe might not have been dead. So we're playing against Stoneblade. So what do we want? I guess the Dismembers for Stoneforges are fine. I don't know that, like, we want to go, like, full 4 or anything. The Null Rods seem fine. I guess we can, like, consider some of this stuff, too. So... what am I supposed to cut? Is it just, like, this one drop? I can see boarding in this Echoing Truth, too. Okay. You agree. Is it maybe, like, too many Dismembers to play all 4? So this would give me 3 answers to a stone forge. 1, 2, 3, 4 answers to pieces of equipment. And then just like trim a trickster. Then what? So like I don't really see myself wanting to get rid of any of my true lords, so I just cut a coral helm. So like there's my removal, there's my stopping power. That seems fine. Shave a force or a vial. I think I'm just gonna run it like this. I think 4 dismembers too many dismember. But again, I don't have matchup experience. My opponent has taken a mulligan. I love Vial into Chalice starts for these sorts of decks. Feels kind of like cheating. Yeah, that can just resolve. That's fine. The Vial was only medium with what we have to work with anyway. If this is Stoneforge, I basically have to dismember it. But we should be sitting pretty after that. The opponent has gotten Jitte. Since they got Jitte, it either means they have the Batterskull in their hand, or they have True Name Nemesis. I'm going to take a turn off to play my Chalice. Yeah, so that has to get Force of Willed. That plus Jitte is an absolute disaster. I'm going to take a second to think, though. Because alternatively, I can let it resolve, play my own true name, try to dismember their Stoneforge, then play my true name, draw blue card to... No, I think that's like too many things that could potentially go wrong. We've got to counter that. So we're going to let them try to Jitte and equip, and then try to blow them out with Dismember. The best part is it doesn't like look telegraphed because like I have to use these sources. Son of a bitch. All right. Now I probably need to kill the Stoneforge to open up the line of actually countering the Jitte next turn. Which sucks. My mana's a little awkward right now. I'm going to tap my Mutavault, potentially missing damage with it, because if I draw a Lord, I'll turn these into 3/3s, and oh my god. Oh my god, that is a disgusting draw. Holy shit. Everything's okay. Disenchant Jitte, pass. Ooh, they're attacking. Well, I'm not actually sure that we're behind in the race. I'm no math wizard, but this is looking good. More lords. Does that get there? Oh, fuck. There was a problem. There was a problem that I did not consider. I think it's fine, but if opponent has swords to plowshares now, things get kind of weird, right? Oh no, so it wouldn't get weird because we do have the chalice. But yeah, old templating on these cards where it's like these ones are other merfolk and these ones are other ones you control. Old templating, super super awkward there. All right, so we got pity points with merfolk. We ended up going 2-3, which is better than I expected we would do. To be completely honest, this is just not a strategy that I enjoy. To kind of like recap my general thoughts on Merfolk, I don't feel like it is the best Chalice deck at doing any one specific thing. Like, Goblins has more decision trees and, like, tutor ability and a better ability to go wide. Death and Taxes has, like, more points of interaction, and I feel like Slivers does a similar thing as Merfolk does, but with a lot more trickiness and more versatility and more annoying things. Like, today I felt like Merfolk Trickster and Benthic Biomancer were very, very bad cards. And like, I really didn't like having these cards in the deck. And you end up running a lot of cards that also just kind of feel awkward. And so, like, I'm not the biggest fan of these either. And I've already kind of talked about some of my sideboard concerns. Like, if you're playing a deck, and in order to support your theme, you feel like you have to play about, like, 7 to 10 bad cards. I don't know that that's an okay place to be in. So like admittedly, I didn't play a lot of matchups where I feel like Merfolk Trickster like absolutely could have shown. Like, you know, if we're going and playing against a Merit Lodge deck, like, oh hey, tap down your Merit Lodge. It's lost all its abilities. It's lost its indestructible. I'm gonna go and like block it and kill it or something like that. Like, I understand there's better spots for this, but like this is a super situational card. This is a curve filler. These are less optimal than other cards that you can be playing in other colors. Like when you compare these to like Lightning Bolt, Swords to Plowshares, and things of that nature, like I'm not in love with this. And then you have like some of your non-bows in the sideboard. Yeah, but I feel kind of like we're an aggro vile deck, and I just don't have as much interaction with my opponents as I would like. So like that's why I'm always hating on Merfolk. I understand that like Merfolk does have its advantages. Like the ability to have Island Walk is really great for some of those blue matchups. It lets you go and invalidate some cards like Baleful Strix that otherwise might be a. Honorog's impression is that this deck is quite controlling. What? Like maybe I just played an entirely different style of League than he did. But like these are aggro cards. And like these are the controlling cards. So I would really disagree with that. Like there are controlling things in the sideboard, but they're really letting you play a lot of them are really letting you play a tempo game plan, right? Like the Force of Negations that are in the sideboard here are great, but it's just letting you press the advantage of your aggro. Yeah. So if I were going to play this again and like for some reason willingly play Merfolk, I would change relics to like probably Tormod's Crypts. I would probably try to find something else for control decks other than back to basics. Like your Mutavaults and Cavernous Souls are really good against control decks, so I don't really know that that's the combo that I want it to be. These are still great against like the big mana decks and everything, but I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, Delicious Waffles, that's a good way to do it. Like sort of like Death and Taxes and the other Ether Vial decks, like you're meant to prey on the blue decks, but your aggro plan is not necessarily as high of caliber as other aggro decks. Like if you compare your Goldfish time to something like, say, Burn or maybe Delver, I have a feeling your Goldfish time is probably going to be worse in a lot of cases. Yeah, so like if your local metagame is full of people on like a bunch of 3 to 4 color blue nonsense decks, I can totally see you bringing in Merfolk and just stomping face. But a lot of the other Vile decks have like some degree of tutorability. Like Humans and Death and Taxes have Recruiter of the Guard. Goblins has Goblin Matron. Like you don't have that selection here. And if Benthic Biomancer is your best form of selection, like yikes. All right, so I think that's all I've got to say about Merfolk. Like Tuxdev, thank you very much for the donation. Like it is appreciated. You know, we gave Merfolk a fair shot. We did okay with it. We did really get unlucky versus Show and Tell in the first round. Like, fully admitting that. Like, we potentially could have gone 3-2 with this deck list. I don't know that we could have done any better than that, though, if we had played better. It's just kind of the way it was. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this little Labor Day stream. If you did, please consider doing something to support the channel. I myself am getting ready to go to GP Atlanta, so a lot of the content outside of donation deck lists will be for Death and Taxes in preparation for that event. All right, cheers, folks. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And I'm going to go ahead and turn you over to E.W. Landon, who is going to go and be playing some more Legacy.